This is a new one that just arrived today.
A classic.
I read that book when I was like 18.
Utopian.
Very cool. Made me, big imprint.
It made you a faggot?
It made me a faggot. That's what I was getting at. This
What
is an awesome book.
When I was in college, my last 2 years of college, I lived in an apartment, like a couple buildings down the street, on Maple Street where Bookends is, and I used to shop here. And at the time I was also working at a bookstore in the area. And then in 2022, I was talking to one of my friends who was also in the book industry about, what if we wanted to start a store, or like how would that work? And we were thinking about how the ideal scenario was to find a store that had already existed that was going under an ownership transition, because then all of the fixtures and everything would be there. And then sure enough, Bookends came up for sale, and we were like, that'd be so crazy, unless. And he and I talked to the previous owner, and we negotiated to the price, and we agreed to go in 50-50, and then sign the purchase agreement. And then the day before the closing, the person that I was going to buy the store with pulled out. And so I put forth my savings to cover the other half, and then just went through with it anyway. Which was a good and a bad decision.
I started working at Bookends just a couple months ago, but I've been kind of around Bookends, adjacent to it, since Madden bought it. I don't have an official job title, really, but I work here.
I first got involved in Bookends by dating Madden. And then when I moved here in December, I started working here regularly.
A woman brought in this box of just like this one's cool, but the rest of them are pretty much like straight up pornographic. Like they're all like guides of how to have lesbian sex. This is just like porn. And I noticed there was like some lover's note in this one.
Whoa, I didn't know this one.
It's Yannick AF.
I don't even think this is I don't think this counts as Yannick. It's just straight up.
It's just straight up bad.
Yeah.
That's what that meant.
I could only with you enough trust to allow myself to open up next to a poem.
Yeah, about coming.
Fucking, yeah.
I also think that working at bookstores in the area, I kind of felt this discordance about like how hostile a space a lot of those were, even if they were like, oh, we're the lefty one or we're the academic one. I also think that this area has a really interesting lesbian history, and there's an interesting history of like lesbian and feminist bookstores in general that the more I learned about, the more I felt emboldened to lean into it being like a lesbian bookstore. So that has kind of grown over the year and a half that I've had it as well.
There used to be not just lesbian bars, but lesbian bookstores, lesbian mechanic shops, lesbian art collectives. And I think that when we look into our local lesbian history, there are a couple themes that come up continuously. And a big one is just financial issues. Women have less access to capital, gay people have less access to capital, gender nonconforming people have less access to capital, and so the amount of money that you need to get a space off the ground is one thing, and the amount of money that you need to keep it going is another, especially in a community where nobody has any money.
I feel as though this area benefits a lot from the idea that it is a predominantly lesbian space, or like its reputation as Lesbianville, USA, when at the same time there are beyond the ordinary socioeconomic barriers to lesbians, to LGBT people more broadly, to women. There's also like specifically increasing financial and social pressures as Northampton gets more gentrified and like pushes out people who would be doing stuff like that. The city benefits a lot from the image of it as, you know, Smith, lesbians, like Alison Bechdel, all of this, when historically it has been really hostile to its lesbian community. One that we're really interested in is this bookstore called Woman Fire Books that was lesbian owned and operated and was in name a feminist bookstore.
Throughout the 80s, there was a sustained harassment campaign against them. It was like Stop Homosexual Unity Now, SHUN, was the group that was coordinating the harassment campaign. So they got threatening phone calls, they had harassment outside their store for years, and repeatedly asked the police to investigate. The police wouldn't investigate, the police were stonewalling them. So being the enterprising lesbians that they were, they tapped their own phone and made tape recordings of the harassment that they passed to the FBI. The FBI started nosing around, asking them to inform on their own community members, kind of implying that in order to get any kind of support, in order to get the harassment to stop, they had to betray their values, betray their community members, inform on them. And then the FBI ended up destroying the tapes, but they had backups. And so it was this whole big fucking mess for years of harassment that was really galvanizing to the kind of nascent gay movement in Northampton. And so they did end up winning their case. And it turned out that, of course, the person who was leading SHUN was a cop's cousin. So I wonder why the police weren't willing to investigate. But it was so overwhelming and such a kind of core problem for them that they ended up being unable to stay open for too many years past the harassment. They closed for a bunch of reasons, but I think that was a big part of it.
The more I learn about lesbian spaces and bookstores in particular in Northampton's history, the more I feel emboldened to continue it going and like push harder.
We also do a lot of specific lesbian events. Dykes to Hang Out For is Dykes to Hang Out With is one of my favorites, and that's every single month, and it's just like mostly unstructured, specifically lesbian time.
We have the music and all of the other like fundraisers and stuff, but the Dyke Night is the specialist one.
Dykes to Hang Out With is a night for dykes to come and hang out. And that's it. That's all I have to say. And I think they might agree with me. It's true.
We're going to be running out in New York. It's the trails that are not recycling.
That feels like normal cheating.
That just
I
seems like
think it's so stuck on the abnormal.
What's abnormal?
We do arm wrestling and we do speed dating, and I've been running the speed dating, and that's really fun.
Will someone count us in?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Oh. Evenly matched.
Yeah.
Oh.
I will say Alice is strong. I remember Alice being strong on this one, I think. Don't think I've actually ever competed for real. Okay, I lied. If I lose this, that's gonna be bad. Okay. Oh, sorry. Oh my god.
I feel like it's hard to find spaces that are just specifically like targeted for lesbians. And especially if you don't have that many people surrounding you that are lesbians, even if you have like a lot of queer friends and like queer support systems, I think that like being a dyke is like very much its own thing, and it's very hard to like completely separate yourself from, you know, like decentering men from your life, and like it just changes your whole way of living, and it's very freeing, but it's very isolating at the same time. So it's nice to have like spaces like this where they host events, and I heard they do live music. It's my first time here, but events like this, like speed dating, just like fostering community.
I personally grew up in Florence, Northampton, and even though there was a lot of gay community, by the time I was of age and gay, all of it had closed. Even my whole thing was I was going to go to Divas, which was the one gay bar still open when I turned 21, and it closed when I was like 17, which was so sad. So it's really nice to have an actual lesbian space back again. Because everybody else he talks so much like Sarah Schulman. This is important. We've made an important discovery that Pleakley of Lilo and Stitch sounds like Sarah Schulman. I didn't grow up around lesbians. Like, I did not have access to that. I still didn't have, until doing Bookends, like access in my community to like a lot of older lesbians, or even like that many my age. And so I think just having a space where people can interact and like have in-person communications and like exchanges is so important. I also think that like even as things become increasingly more like, oh, we're a bookstore for everyone, like gay people are welcome, there is still something different about going into a straight bookstore, which even if a straight bookstore is for everyone and it's not explicitly hostile to you, it's still a straight bookstore and you're still an outlier. I think there's something to be said for being able to go into an explicitly gay space and not feel that way. Like when I go to Bookends, I mean, obviously I run Bookends, so it's different, but when I go to Bookends, or when I go to what few explicitly gay spaces exist, it's a different space than going into a straight space that I know is welcoming. And that's why I think it's so important, because, you know, you still have to have your guard up a little bit, and you still have to like translate your experiences a little bit, and you don't have to do that as much when you're in a space that's actually for you. You're not moving things around and acclimating or assimilating.
A couple weeks ago, I was here by myself, and a kind of middle-aged butch person came in and was quietly browsing for a while in a way where they seemed like they wanted to talk to me. And I asked if I could help them with anything, and they told me, you know, I'm so-and-so, I just came out as gay, I just started tea, I don't know any gay people, and I don't know what to read. Like, I don't know anything about my history. Like, what should I read? What should I do? And I got to like curate a stack of like 10 books and think about like, oh God, like what would I have wanted to read when I was first coming out? And like, now I have access to all these books, and I have access to all this knowledge, and like, this is the test I've been studying for, and this is like kind of the like really beautiful moment of bookselling is when people are looking for connection and are looking for a physical object that connects them to history, and you can be an inn and you can provide that, and you can provide a physical space where they feel safe asking for that. If I had to imagine like what did I want my life in my 20s to be like being like, oh, I'm in a loving butch femme relationship and I work at a lesbian bookstore. It's like kind of exactly what I would have thought would be both like perfect and unattainable. And so it's kind of grounding in that way to be like, oh, we're doing something really cool.
You don't even like realize what is missing until you're like in a space that is really like dedicated to or so clearly imprinted on by lesbians, until you're in one of the spaces.
I don't want to make it seem like a fantasy or be like it's so easy and joyful, because often it's the bane of my existence, but I also don't want to be like doom and gloom about it or lament too hard about it, because at the end of the day, like, it is really meaningful and rewarding because I get to do it with my friends and because like it's just fun to be able to be a part of it. Like, I feel like it's not a space I would have access to if I hadn't sought out making it, and so I benefit from it just as much as anyone else does. That's Bookends.
That's Bookends.